Hello, Steve Slack here, and welcome to my new series of tutorials for Sense called Making Sense Out of Programming in Sense. This first tutorial is part of the building blocks set, and it's basically about the building blocks of Sense. As you can see, we've got our screen set up in our normal programming mode. We've got a single sprite here ready to do some work for us. We've got our stage, and this is the stage background at the moment. I've stamped these two sprites on there, so don't worry. This is the live sprite that we have here at the moment. I'm going to move over our viewing screen slightly so that we can see more area to put our scripts into. Okay, so building blocks. The first building block that we need for our program is one of these, and these are the 4 blocks which are able to start code running in your program. Now, you can't start code running without one of these blocks programmatically, although double clicking on a program item in this screen will make it happen. We're going to start with the good old green flag that we all know, love and trust, and basically when this green flag is clicked up here, everything that's got a green flag on it runs. We can do multiples, and as you see, if we click again, both flash white when they try to run. Just to give you a quick demonstration of this working, we'll have a turn 15 degrees on the Sense sprite. And when we click it, you'll see they both try to run and the Sense turns slightly. Now if we were to duplicate that on the other green flag, you'll notice that only one of them actually runs all the time. Still moving the same amount, look, even though we've got 2 running. And the reason for that is that they're both occurring at the same time, and Sense doesn't differentiate between the two. So if we wanted to really use this sort of programming, which is bad programming, we'd have to put a delay into one of them. And if we click the green flag this time, we get one move and then another after a second. So there's no limit on how many green flags you put into your program, but I would say be careful how many you put in, because too many green flags can lead to confusion as to where your code's going wrong, which is bad at debugging time. For those of you who don't know what debugging is, welcome to the world of programming. You will find out soon enough. Okay, so that's our green flag. Our next method of starting code is in reaction to a key press. Now, basically, Sense allows us to press a key at any time on the keyboard, and we can use any of these keys to start any action in either a sprite or in the stage. In this case, yes, you guessed it, we're going to turn 15 degrees every time the key is pressed. So if we duplicate that, clicking your right button on a code item and pressing duplicate will duplicate it for you. Now we have 2 pieces of code here running. First we're going to move it with our green flag, which just turns it like that. And then we're going to do it with the space key. Now if we hit the space key, obviously you can't see me doing this, but listen for the key press. You'll see that it turns once. That's exactly what we expect to happen, and that would happen inside any sprite when the space key is pressed and there is a control block with space key present. Again, be careful not to put too much on a single key, because you can cause problems later when you try to run, for instance, 2 sprites at the same time, both of which have a response to a certain key. And don't forget, there are a lot of keys you can use. You don't just have to use the space key. And very similar to the space key is the when Sense clicked. Now, this is a bit strange because I've got Sense in there, and it's just because I've named the sprite Sense. I'll just duplicate this for you. Okay, so this one is now called sprite 1. If we look at the code in sprite 1, it now says when sprite 1 clicked. So obviously that is based upon the particular item that you're currently coding for, which is this Sense here. So I'm going to space key it around a bit just to get to there, so it's the right way up. Whee! Okay, I'm going to pull this into here and put it on the Sense clicked, and whenever we click on that icon, we spin it. So as you can see, all 4 pieces of code do a similar sort of thing, just at different times and at different demands. We now come to a receiver, and the receiver receives a message from another part of the program telling it to do something. In this case, we're going to call this message do something. Once again, you all see how wonderful my naming conventions are when it comes to programming. And we're going to, believe it or not, duplicate this bit of code again. turn 15 degrees. Now, in order to receive do something, we have to broadcast it from somewhere. So in this instance, we're just going to broadcast it from this control panel here. And just broadcast do something. As you can see, it's the only one populated. All broadcast and receptions are available to all receive and broadcast areas, so be careful not to broadcast too many times, and be careful not to receive too many times and cause further program chaos through that. Okay, so basically this is not run at the moment from any other link. As I said earlier, you can actually run a piece of code within this window by double clicking it. So if we double click this, we saw our receive do something flash and it turned 15 degrees. So that is how that works, and this obviously is a regular piece of code. It has a top tab and a bottom tab, which means it can be linked into any piece of code that we're using. So what we could do is we could add this onto the bottom of here, and when someone clicks sense, first of all it moves it once and then moves it again with the do something broadcast. And get that back to being straight again. Now these can be broadcast from anywhere. It doesn't have to be broadcast from within the sprite, and we can show this by basically moving that into the stage, looking at the stage and broadcasting do something, and you see that even though we're not in that piece of code, we are actually broadcasting to that piece of code to do its work. As you can see, it's doing it. Now what we're going to do again is we're going to duplicate this sprite again, so we have a sprite 1 as well as our current sprite. Bit of screen mess going on there, probably getting too much memory used. Now they both have a broadcast do something, receive do something. There, look, because they're duplicates. So basically from one broadcast here in the stage, we move both sprites. So you can see the power of the broadcast is that you can trigger multiple actions in your program from a single point. That is very powerful. It's unusual in programming to have something so generic. Care needs to be given over using this because you can cause yourself a lot of debugging problems later. Okay, that's the first part of the building blocks tutorials, part 1. Part 2 will cover loops. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and take care.